Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome into the Slate. We are a DraftKings show that runs Monday through Friday, late afternoon, right after that 4 o'clock Madden Sim over on YouTube and Twitch. And we take you up tonight until about 6 o'clock, just before 6, and then we skedaddle on out of here. But we have a lot to get to. Brendan Glasheen and Jeff Ulrich today, and it's a big day. You know, this show is very flexible when it comes to discussion points, more with other hosts more than others. I won't name names. But yes, we will monitor the Players' Championship in golf. This is typically a golf show on Mondays because typically the golf wraps up by Sunday. But the Players' Championship and the weather down in Florida is just not cooperating. So therefore, we pivot, and it's a great day to do so because a ton of NFL free agency signing news coming out today. It is a legal tampering period today for free agents to sign elsewhere. And we are getting news fast and furious. The latest big name off the board, J.C. Jackson, is heading illegal activity. Yes, the tampering is now legal today. J.C. Jackson is on his way to the Los Angeles Chargers on a 5-year, $82 million deal, $40 million in guarantees. He gets more than $54 million over the first 3 years of the contract. There was a big contract handed out to Christian Kirk earlier today. Carlton Davis is back with the Bucs. So we will do our best to filter through all of this and keep you up to date. If we get any breaking news, it could impact the odds over on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Those will continue to update or come off the board based on drastic news, but nothing to the point yet where odds are coming off the board. Jeff, kind of a fun day to monitor here. We'll get to Christian Kirk for sure. What else are you looking forward to seeing today as free agency begins?
I mean, a lot has happened already. So, I mean, I like it's one of those days where it's like just hard to keep track of everything. I mean, the Christian Kirk news thing, obviously kind of grabbing the latest headlines with like J.C. Jackson going to the Chargers. You kind of forget that like some of these bigger names, defensive guys are on the market when we're all watching the offensive players, like especially for fantasy purposes. And then, I mean, probably the most impactful news from a fantasy perspective is Mitch Trubisky going to the Steelers. I mean, you know, there was one of those teams that just didn't have a quarterback.
Right.
And it seems like this is what they're doing. And I mean, I'm fine with it. I mean, again, you know, there's a lot of people who are going to be pointing out the flaws of Mitch Trubisky, either because he was a high round draft pick who busted, he looked terrible in Matt Nagy's system, or just from like a stat sheet thing. But it's still a very talented player, a guy who's put up some really big fantasy numbers. And you've got to look at the situation, man. Like, he is going into a team who wasn't very good at running the ball. They passed it a lot with Ben Roethlisberger, and they've got elite wide receivers. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that works out. There's definitely, again, I'm not suggesting Mitch Trubisky is going to turn to Josh Allen, but there's definitely potential for fantasy, a lot of stuff there. I mean, I don't know if the Steelers are going to transform into like one of the better run teams. I'm sure they'll still try and run the ball lots with Najee Harris, but that's a really significant piece of what happened today. So lots of stuff going on. And I mean, you asked me what we're waiting for. Look, Carolina, New Orleans, Indianapolis, like teams with quarterbacks. Those are the big names, the guys that control a lot of like the fantasy destinies for those offensive players attached to those teams too. So still waiting on those teams.
Yeah, what the Niners do with Jimmy Garoppolo too is something else we will figure out. Garoppolo is still under their control, so that's not a free agent situation as of now. But yes, that is another team that will monitor. The Pittsburgh Steelers, you bring up Trubisky, it's a good name to talk about because Steelers are the fourth favorite in their division over on the DK Sportsbook, plus 650 to win the North. And if we go to, just to get really ambitious here for the Steelers, if you go to the AFC conference, to come out of the conference, they are the fourth lowest favorite. They have the fourth longest odds of all teams. And the next teams after them are the Jags, Jets, and Texans. Hey, you know, it sounds crazy, but Mitchell Trubisky did go to the playoffs with the Bears. So if you have a year with Brian Daboll under that offense, like you said, we're not trying to say he is Josh Allen, but maybe they fix some things there. And if the Steelers, they have upside, as you said, right, wide receiver. Freiermuth, to me, feels like a pretty darn good tight end. He is still very viable. Now, we'll see, again, what Trubisky looks like to keep those weapons viable. If they were viable with Big Ben, I think they can be viable with anybody else. And plenty of upside on that defense. Like, that defense was fun to watch, I thought, even though I think what the Steelers did actually getting into the playoffs last year is we actually did get a chance to see them, at least early on against Kansas City. There was some bright spots from that defense, and then quickly they got exposed because their quarterback couldn't keep them on the field. But I don't know. Steelers might be worth a little look here. Better off waiting, but it's interesting that after them, it's Jags, Jets, and Texans. So the market is telling you what they think, even of the signing.
Yeah, I mean, the AFC it's kind of loaded right now. So look, Trubisky took a team in the Bears to the playoffs twice behind a good defense and in a system that, I just think stifled his style of play completely. Trubisky's really, he's a very athletic quarterback. Like, he's very mobile. You look at Trubisky and Deshaun Watson coming out of college. A lot of their metrics, man, like I'm talking 40 times, just what they did at the combine. It's almost identical. Like, those two are almost identical. And Deshaun Watson is a lot better football player. So let's just get that out of the way. I don't disagree, but there's things you can do with Mitch Trubisky that I just don't think the Bears ever committed to, like just letting him freewheel a bit in the run game to start with. So I think there's a little bit of potentially like untapped, just offensive ability with Mitch Trubisky. Let's put it that way. And the Steelers were a team who, they led the league in sacks per game. They still have a very good line, defensive line. They have some playmakers in the secondary, like Minka Fitzpatrick. If they can just get some explosive plays on offense, man, like this team can absolutely get after it on the defensive side. So, it plus 3,000. I mean, it's pretty big for a conference winner. I mean, I know the AFC is stacked, but what was Cincinnati last year, right? Like, things can change.
They were definitely, if I had to guess, they were definitely like 25-1.
I think that was like, I'm pretty sure they were bigger than that. I'm pretty sure they were like 40 or 50, but regardless.
Yeah.
I would probably rather
even in the season after a decent start, they were still 25-1.
Yeah, absolutely. Point, absolutely. Right? They were. I would probably rather bet the Steelers to win that division than bet some conference. They're plus 650. Everyone's still high on the Ravens. I mean, the Ravens were not good last year. Like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that changes and they get a little bit more consistent pass game and just on the pass defense too, on that side of the ball, they were terrible. The Bengals are going to be playing a division winners record. Don't forget. And then, the Browns, who obviously just have added Amari Cooper, but like, is Amari Cooper going to solve the quarterback problem there? I mean, I don't know. So that division's really interesting. I feel like people are probably still too low on the Steelers. I mean, I think the Steelers deserve to be like the fourth favorites, but I don't think they should be this much. I think people are still too high on the Ravens. People might even be a little bit too down on the Browns, but I shall take that back. And, the Bengals coming off the Super Bowl appearance, obviously people are going to be high on them. So I think the Steelers, much like the Bengals last year, they're probably just not going to get much attention, and you probably don't need to rush out and bet them because Trubisky, clearly like the sentiment is like this does nothing for them. So.
Yeah, I just think it's a team, like, just keep in mind, they did get in the playoffs last year with Big Ben. They improved at quarterback. Like, to some degree, they improved at quarterback. And Jeff makes a great point. The Bengals are playing a first-place schedule next year because they won their division. And the Steelers will play a playoff schedule, but it's a wild card schedule for next year. So that is something that does bode well for them. That I think that's one team that is at least interesting to discuss. At least I think you're right. Winning the division feels more of a realistic thing to discuss, because then you're asking them, if they do win their division, you're still asking them to go through a Denver or Kansas City or even LA, the Titans, or the Bills. So the teams that are truly contenders. I'm just looking at their opponents for next year, the Steelers. They are, let's see, next year they draw the NFC South, which I think is a pretty good draw outside of Tampa. They get the NFC East next year. That whole conference gets the NFC East. So they get Philly, Dallas, Washington football team, the Commanders, and they also get the Giants. So that's something too. I think that's right. Oh, wait a minute. I am not right on that. That is not correct. They get one of those teams. They play just Philly. I think that might be the 17th game. So I apologize. That's their 17th game next year. It's Philly. So they get the NFC South. They get Philly. And who do they get in the Yeah, and then they get in the NFC. They play. I mean, the AFC. They play the Patriots next year. They play the Jets. So they play the AFC East. So it's the East, the NFC South. They get the Eagles, and they play the Raiders as well. So those are pretty good draws. I mean, like you said, of all the teams that are like plus 3,000 right now in the AFC discussion, because there are 3 teams that are at plus 3,000, I like the Steelers the most. Like, I like the Steelers more than I like the Dolphins or the Raiders, just knowing who's in their division.
I definitely like them over the Raiders. I mean, that's for sure. I mean, the Dolphins, yeah, I would actually take them over the Dolphins too. I just feel like they're in a better spot in their division. And I mean, I again, like Tua, I just don't know what the upside there. I mean, at least Mitch can run the ball a little bit. I don't know. I've always been a Mitch Trubisky truther. I mean,
I know you have.
I'm very prone to being made to look silly on this, but they I don't know. I think this is a good move for them. I really do. I think that with what is out there, like overpaying for some kind of trade or like getting Matt Ryan in, like, was Matt Ryan is like, say you paid $1 million for Matt Ryan or whatever, whatever, 100 million to bring him in. Was that going to put the Steelers over the top? Like, is Matt Ryan going to win that division? No, I mean, I'd rather save money, see if you can catch lightning in a bottle with Trubisky. And if you can't, you go to the draft, or maybe someone opens up next year for a big trade. So it's, regardless of what you think, I think this is a very smart move by the Steelers. I think that there will be other teams who don't make smart moves. And at the very least, I think they'll be competitive again next year. And don't be shocked if they like sneak in again. So
exactly. It's a bridge quarterback. It's a bridge quarterback to get to the next guy. And they figure they have enough in place where they can be about the same, which you got to still try to contend. I think that's what's going to happen with the Raiders. We just brought them up. The Dolphins, those 3 teams feel very similar. And at the end of the day, like we just said, of all of those teams, which team do you feel best about in their division? I feel best about Pittsburgh because Miami's got Buffalo to put up with, and then Vegas is going to put up with 3 teams that I think are far and away better than them. Okay, that is a lot of time for Mitchell Trubisky. It just comes to show, like, there have been names off the board today, but like not marquee names. Like Jeff said, a lot on the defensive side. Let's just do Christian Kirk now. Does Christian Kirk move the needle at all for you? Money aside, does he make the Jaguars more? He's replacing DJ Chark, we think, because Chark is now an unrestricted free agent. They still have Chenault. They brought back Marvin Jones. They're the third favorite now in the they've been the third favorite. The Texans are a mess. So they are the third favorite in the South at plus 700.
So, I mean, Christian Kirk last year, DeAndre Hopkins went out. What did he do? I mean, he got a few more targets and that's pretty much it. He didn't help carry the team or anything like that. The Cardinals offense struggled, DVOA, they just plummeted basically with DeAndre Hopkins out. And now you're asking him to go to Jacksonville to what, like be the man or something? I mean, Marvin Jones is still there. And I think that's good. I mean, if it was, I think Marvin Jones isn't really a number 1 wide receiver either. And I don't think that's a hot take at all, but at least he's got someone to work off of. So it gives Trevor Lawrence like a decent player to kind of work with after the catch, but he's not a player who's going to like elevate Trevor Lawrence to anything special. Like, he's not DeAndre Hopkins. He's not a player who's going to make magic with like, his quarterback and maybe like provide that sort of just comfort zone and make big catches. He's a player who I thought slotted into the Arizona system okay as like a secondary option. He'd make some big plays, but as soon as Hopkins went out, I mean, it's just, his year last year was basically the same as the year before. He just got a few more targets. Yards per catch was the same. And, I guess he was just like the best option out there for the Jags. I mean, we talked about this before the show, and it just felt like a signing that was just like they wanted to spend some money and they wanted to say to their fans, we're spending up to the cap. And this is how they did it to overpay for Christian Kirk. And I don't know. It's a good depth signing, but he's certainly, the money is ridiculous.
Wasn't Emerson down in Florida recently? Maybe Emerson like broke into their GM's office and made a prank phone call and said, "Hey, you want this much money?" And he actually accepted. So I blame Emerson Latzia for all the money they're giving him.
Like, it's just one of those things where Christian Kirk is he's a solid receiver. He's not terrible or anything. His catch rate with Kyler Murray went up last year, so the connection was a little bit better. the yards per target went up, but again, I think some of that is just a product of DeAndre Hopkins being out. And I just look at how Arizona and that offense went after Hopkins went out. And like Christian Kirk was not the guy, man. And he's just a player who's going to get overpaid, and people are going to just point to this contract. It's kind of just going to be an albatross. I mean, he's not going to care because he's getting all this cash, but like from a player perspective, I don't know. It's just very like does not fit the kind of player he is.
So talking offensive guys, just a couple other things that jump out. I just got this tweet that showed up from our former colleague here at DK, Adam Levitan. The bleep is going on here, and he quote tweeted, the Seattle Seahawks have signed tight end Will Dissly to a 3-year, $24 million deal. He just tore his Achilles, didn't he?
Hasn't he done it like twice? I can't even remember. So
it was an Achilles, and it might have been an ACL. That's just funny. That's a lot of money for a team that just got Noah Fant. Like, what is happening? They just got Noah Fant from the Broncos. Why?
The Seahawks, didn't they resign like a 36-year-old on defense too? Like, I don't know, man. Like,
what's happening? Like, they just got one of the best young tight ends in the sport, and Will Dissly. What? And Will Dissly, like fun and Madden and all that. But
I mean, look, tight end is a more important position than people realize. Like, just because of the the blocking schemes and stuff like that. So, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't have anything to say. Like you said, I'm pretty sure he's come off like 2 major injuries too. So, I don't have anything, man. It's a weird one.
Achilles, and then I don't remember hearing his name much last year. So something happened to him last year, and I apologize.
Yeah.
I can't find it. I'm looking for his.
I think the takeaway from this should be: get ready to see the Seattle Seahawks play the ugliest kind of football next year. They're going to pound the ball with Will Dissly, who's just going to be in there blocking every play. And that's likely, they said that's what they want to do. And that's probably, so, I mean, look, Chris Carson probably get like 30 carries a game, even though they'll be down like 20 points. So,
yeah. All right. Again, that's plenty of Will Dissly time. Just wanted to throw that out there. I thought that was funny. I do want to get to one other team. And then the other one, too, was Miami, Tua Insurance. They signed Teddy Bridgewater. That's from Adam Schefter, his latest reporting. How about this, though? I know this is like it's not new news necessarily, but the Dallas Cowboys are re-upping Cedric Wilson, and they move off of Amari Cooper, of course. He's now in Cleveland. They gave Gallup some money as well. What do you make of Dallas and their core now? So here it is. I'm sorry. Cedric Wilson is going to Miami. So Wilson's out. So now it's CeeDee Lamb and it's Gallup. So my apologies. Cedric Wilson an hour ago, Schefter and Todd Archer. Cedric Wilson, 3 years, $23 million. That includes 12.75 guarantee with Miami. So he's out. So Dallas is now down to 2 guys in Lamb and Gallup, at least that we know of. So just Dallas. I think we still feel pretty okay. I know last year when we did right around this time, if you recall, Jeff, I remember you and Reed being very high on the Washington football team to win that division in the East with Ryan Fitzpatrick. They have now moved to Carson Wentz, but are you concerned for Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott, like from an offensive standpoint with these guys out now?
Oh, just with like losing Cedric Wilson and Amari Cooper?
Yeah, like it kind of knocks down, Gallup down a peg. No, it doesn't matter to you.
No, I mean, I think Gallup is a pretty solid receiver. Okay. People say he might be overpaid, but he was going to get that on the free agent market. Like, I mean, look at what Christian Kirk just got. Like, Dallas had to make a decision. I mean, keep the albatross of the Amari Cooper contract or lose Michael Gallup. And I think they made the right decision. He got a little bit younger. He plays the X receiver role, which is, he lines up there a lot. Like, and I think he's like the perfect complement to CeeDee Lamb, who, showed that maybe he's not quite as good a deep threat as Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper's a pretty good deep ball receiver, but he's definitely close. And I think he's like a little bit more versatile than Amari Cooper as well, CeeDee Lamb. So I think they made a smart choice, actually. And I rarely say that about the Dallas Cowboys, but I like the fact that they kept Gallup. And I really do. And again, like, just reading out some of the players that like are paid kind of around where Gallup is, I'd have to go back, like just get my thing, but like Robbie Anderson, Corey Davis, Lockett, Curtis Samuel's a big contract. Like, this is what you pay for these second tier wide receivers right now. And I think Gallup might have like as good or better upside than that entire list. So, this is a player who's been banged up a little bit, but when he's kind of had his chances, it's kind of been like the opposite of Christian Kirk. Like when Gallup has gotten chances without Cooper or someone else, he's put up some big games. And I think that, again, just with the where he plays, I think he's a better signing than Christian Kirk. And I mean, look, they did get him for cheaper. So like his contract actually looks pretty reasonable right now. Yeah. I think the Cowboys made a smart move with Gallup.
Okay. And the Cowboys are the favorite to come out of the East next year at -120. Eagles next, and then the Commanders of Washington +400, Giants +700. Defensively, we did mention off the top of the show, the latest big name off the board, and big name because of the contract, really. J.C. Jackson, the most highly touted corner available in this free agency. Age, upside, no injury history that is substantial. Padded stats, in my opinion, over the years. Right place, right time kind of guy. But the Chargers go out and give him money, and they kind of should, right? Look at that division. It's a passing game division for sure. It's a passing game league now, but more so that division is super challenging with all of those weapons in Denver and the weapons in Kansas City. Even the Raiders were a playoff team last year, and they've got upside on offense. So the Chargers go out, make a splash. What do you make of their signing of J.C. Jackson?
Yeah, and I mean, it's a Chris Harris replacement, right? Chris Harris, UFA, getting up there in age too. I mean, I kind of like it. I mean, this is a team, the Chargers, who I think that they had a couple things to address on defense. Khalil Mack maybe doesn't solve all their problems, like from a rush defensive standpoint, but he's a better rush defender than people realize. And it's kind of the same with J.C. Jackson. Like, you mentioned like padded stats, but I mean, he was thrown at like a lot. When Gilmore was on the other side, right? Like teams kind of attacked him, and he held up pretty well. Passer ratings against him too, like were not very good last year. So I think he's a pretty quality cornerback. I mean, I wouldn't say he's like, the best of the best, but when you put him alongside like Asante Samuel Jr., who they drafted last year, I mean, it's a pretty solid like secondary they're throwing back there with Derwin James as well, right? So, and they've got some other depth pieces there. So, I think the Chargers are a team that's, understands they've got the good young quarterback. They've got an explosive offense, and they're in a division kind of like in an arms race right now in their division. I think they understand that. And I think they're kind of a little bit taking a little bit of the Rams approach. They're just loading up, and they should be. They should. They have a window. They need to get a little bit more consistent. They need to stop the run a bit better, and they need to keep that secondary solid. And they're on track to do both things. So. It
can't be understated. You have a quarterback, a great quarterback on a rookie contract. You put as many pieces around him as possible. This is exactly what the Rams did when they had Jared Goff. And then when they reached the Super Bowl, they reached the highest level you could. They just didn't win it. They went out and got the quarterback to take them to the next level. The Chargers already have that. The Chargers don't have a Jared Goff problem. They have the quarterback on the rookie deal. You do everything possible. You go get Khalil Mack. You sign the best free agent corner. A lot of teams needed corner too. So you're right. A lot of teams get mesmerized by the contract, but timing is everything. J.C. Jackson, undrafted free agent. He's a good story based on where he came from initially and how he's worked his way up. Belichick coaches up yet another corner, and he goes out and gets paid. So forget he was going to get the contract because he was the best name available. Now I'm curious what decisions do Stephon Gilmore make, or what decision does Joe Hayden make? Because they're kind of in that in-between place of they could probably go somewhere that has maybe a fringe championship playoff contender, or they could take less and go to a real contender at this point in their careers. And that's what I'm curious about. Like, does Gilmore look at it and go, do I go to say like Philly and take a big deal and maybe contend for a playoff spot, or do I go to Tampa and know I'm going to definitely get in with Brady and company, something like that? That's what I'm curious, because I think those are the next two names, right? Gilmore and Joe Hayden are the next two big names at corner that are available.
Yeah, I mean, let's quickly bring up the corners if there's anyone else we're missing, but Yeah, I mean, JC Jackson just
Kyle
signed. Yeah, I
Fuller.
mean, Gilmore, Hayden. I mean, Kyle Fuller's out there too. Harris, who we already mentioned, he's getting up there a bit.
Patrick Peterson getting up there.
Actually, all these guys are kind of getting up there.
That's my point. They could. It's a position of need because it's a passing game league, and a lot of teams need the So, for example, the Chargers, they needed the corner if they're going to move on from Harris. They went out and got the kid who's 26. Makes sense to throw the cash at him.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I'm not sure if any of these players that are left will be getting they won't be getting long contracts, but a couple of them could cash in. I mean, I don't really have a good idea of where the cornerback market is because it feels like teams are always kind of looking for cornerbacks. Like the Ravens could certainly use someone, but can they fit them in? Like the Colts have a lot of space too. I would definitely look for the Colts potentially to pick up one of these guys. If they're not like doing that right now, I don't know because it's obviously a free agency just open, but I think the Colts are a contending team that you could definitely see pick up one of these players. I don't know, man. I mean, I know the Colts have a lot of extra room, but I think these guys could kind of end up anywhere. And I think like contending teams like a Tampa Bay, maybe someone takes a cheap deal to go to like Green Bay or something. I don't know. Green Bay doesn't have much cap space either. They just signed Aaron Rodgers to $1 bajillion, but teams like that, will probably, end up signing at least one or two of these guys. And then, I mean, like some of these bad teams are probably going to grab just overpay, much like the Christian Kirk signing. I mean, it won't shock me if the Jets grab one of these players and just bring them in for a couple of years and just pay them an absurd amount, or the Seahawks, right? So the Dolphins still have a lot of room. So I think that you'll see these veterans kind of, maybe one or two of them goes to contenders and the other ones will just take the money, which, is perfectly fine. I mean, that's what I would be doing if I was them too.
Yeah. Maybe take the money on a 1-year deal and then you could get a draft pick for him or something.
But I mean, really stink. Yeah. As far as good teams with cap space, the Colts definitely lead that, kind of thing. The Bengals actually have some space too. They just re-signed someone. I can't remember who it was, but the Bengals have some space.
They signed, oh my gosh, I had his name in my head. They just signed the dude from the Patriots, Ted Karras. They signed center Ted Karras to a 3-year, $18 million
Yeah,
deal.
that's a good signing by them.
Yep.
They got to shore up the O-line. And then like the Steelers, I mean, like they lost Joe Hayden, right? So they may try and grab a veteran, like maybe bring in Chris Harris for cheap or something for a year to replace him. So I think the Steelers are another team, could definitely bring someone in. But yeah, I'd look for a lot of these bad teams with space. Jacksonville still space. Panthers.
Jacksonville's still spending. They just signed tight end Evan Engram to a 1-year, fully guaranteed $9 million deal that could get to 10 with incentives.
Did they already sign another tight end? Is that their second tight end? No, that isn't. No, okay, never. I got that. I was thinking they might sign Zach Ertz, but I like the Ingram signing better. That's more. How much was it?
$9 million guaranteed, 1 year.
Okay, 1 year. I mean, I'd rather they bring in Evan Ingram than Zach Ertz. I mean, that makes way more sense. Ingram's a field stretcher too. Like for I know he plays tight end, but that's interesting, man. I mean, I think that's really good for fantasy purposes. Trevor Lawrence certainly targeted tight end position a ton. Last year, especially down the stretch with Dan Arnold, Evan Ingram's,
yes, that's right. They traded for Darnold about a month and a half into the season, and he was an impact guy.
Yep.
The latest coming in now from on the Deshaun Watson front. This is per John McClain, who reports for the Houston Chronicle. Deshaun Watson has rejected the Seahawks. He has rejected the Seahawks, and then Armando Salguero, who writes for. Well, he did write for the Miami Herald, I thought, but I don't see his affiliation here now. Outkick, thank you, Eamon. Eamon and Tom here behind the scenes.
Yeah, he switched. Thing. You're right. I actually knew that. Yeah.
Armando Salguero says that Watson will meet with the Panthers and Saints as early as tonight/tomorrow. And that, of course, rules out the Colts. The Saints are a team that's really interesting to me, right? Because they're a team they have been very quiet. Haven't you noticed that? They've been very quiet because they've got to work out a lot. If they want to get Watson, they've got to make choices with Kamara, with Michael Thomas, with guys on that defense. They're going to have to do some restructuring, moving the money around, but makes sense to me. Yeah. Their one big move could be just go get the quarterback and maybe Taysom Hill goes to Houston. I'm just throwing it out there.
Oh, I mean, I'd love that.
They might have to pay, they might have to pay some of the contract, but that would
yeah.
make sense if they do it's not quite, again, I'm not saying Deshaun Watson is the same level of prospect as Matt Stafford, but something like that. We'll take your starter for our starter kind of thing.
Yep. No, absolutely. I mean, you could see some kind of like Khalil Mack trade too with like one of their defensive players, like a Cam Jordan too. I mean, I don't think they want to do that, but you know, I'm just looking through their cap hits right now. I mean, that's the kind of thing they'd have to do to make it work. Right. So I mean, I think from a fantasy perspective, like Watson to the Saints would be good. The Panthers, and we talked about this morning. I mean, they might be a little bit more interesting from like, he gets to work with Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore, but like Matt Rule is, I mean, the dude wants to run the ball 33 times a game, he said, or something ridiculous like that. So I don't know. But yeah, the Saints, if the Saints want to make that work, you will be seeing a lot of some kind of movement, like a Khalil Mack trade. So
another defensive signing. Hassan Reddick will sign with the Eagles. That's per multiple reports. So Reddick to Philadelphia. Any knee-jerk reaction to that one?
Not really.
Yeah.
Good depth signing. I mean, I don't know. Eagles haven't really made, I mean, I think the big people were kind of waiting maybe for the Eagles to like grab a Calvin Ridley. Obviously that's off the table now. So the Eagles are kind of just floating out there. Potentially like we'll try and add someone or, you know, maybe at the draft. I would probably look for the Eagles to maybe do something at the draft, maybe move up to get someone, but yeah, they still haven't really like fully committed to Jalen Hurts too. That's the other thing. So
that's right. So it makes you wonder what their plan is. But again, Deshaun Watson's got two teams in mind. I'm only throwing his name out there because he is the next big name quarterback that feels that is out there that could make a move. Josina Anderson, moments ago, I am told Deshaun Watson is set to meet with the Saints, Panthers in Houston through Monday evening. Also told Watson is currently planning to meet with more teams tomorrow. Okay, so maybe that does include a Philadelphia. Aaron Wilson, NFL, with these details as well. Okay.
I mean, I'm not shocked to hear that. Like I mean, they like Philly still hasn't really said anything. Like we're committed, and they've been like the Saints. They've just been quiet, right?
Very quiet, right?
They haven't been like like the Saints haven't been rumors. Oh yeah, it might be good for Jameis Winston to go back, but clearly like the Saints are waiting, and I think the Eagles are too. So I'm not shocked. From like a betting perspective and an odds perspective, I don't know. I mean, like you could think about maybe like trying to hit up the Saints division right now. I mean, it's certainly not a bad time to do it. I mean, the Bucks, obviously their odds went through the roof, but like the Panthers and the Saints, they'd get a boost if Deshaun went there. The Panthers are plus 750. I don't really like it. I mean, I don't like the Panthers, but
to win the division,
you could think about it. I'm just trying to think out scenarios here where we could benefit from a betting perspective. So yeah, I mean, Eagles, just looking at that division quickly too. You've got the Giants who were actually linked to potentially bring in Trubisky as like help. And then you've got the Commanders with Wentz, but I mean, I don't know, like Cowboys and Eagles are kind of where it's at for me there right now. So, maybe the Eagles do win the Deshaun sweepstakes, and that, plus 350 looks pretty good. So,
Yep. I mean, look, all three of those teams make a ton of sense. It's out of the conference. You're sending them to the other conference. You'd figure in their respective divisions. If you're the Saints, I'll say this, right? Like, I'm not going to go all Brady on you here for a minute, but there's one team that can beat Brady. It's the Saints. They have his number on defense. It's that team that he can't get over the hump on with that defense. So the Saints must look at it and go, well, now Tom's back. They have to make a call. Like, do they want to completely rebuild? Like I said, sell off Alvin Kamara, sell off Michael Thomas, maybe Cam Jordan, like blow it up, or, which I think it's more of the latter, let's contend. We can knock this guy out still. If we go get Deshaun Watson, you're a viable threat. Same goes for Carolina. You're very much in contention. You can make a big splash. Watson's got connections down there. You need a star quarterback. I mean, the Panthers, to me, they witnessed it when they had a star in Cam Newton for years, what that could mean for their franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I think you make a good point. I mean, you put your Brady glasses aside for a second. I mean,
I do.
you're
I
right.
can do
Like
that.
the
I am
Saints
not
have
biased entirely. As much as I like to dress up like him and I worship him, but he can't beat the Saints. They don't score
no,
points against the Saints. The only time he beat them was at the Dome, and the rest is history. Beat
yeah,
Aaron
no,
Rodgers again, and yep.
I mean, the Saints are interesting because they're a team like who's been able to like run a little bit against the Bucks too and move the ball a little bit more than other teams. I think like the Bucks have had trouble getting pressure on them, and I think that would probably continue with Deshaun Watson. So I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, the Brady thing just threw that whole division. Like, just I mean, it's almost like the division like turned 180 when Brady retired, and then it just like flipped right back to where it was. So it's been a weird couple days just in terms of like where the odds have gone.
Right.
I mean, that's even with Deshaun Watson rumors, I really don't know if that's like something I'd be.
Well, Jeff, because Deshaun Watson could have also ended up in Tampa if Tom Brady didn't come back. So like Watson was I think Watson, and then there's another name, and I'm drawing a blank on who it was. Oh, Aaron Rodgers was rumored, but that of course went away. Russell Wilson was rumored, that went away. So Watson was still connected to potentially go to one of those teams outside of Atlanta, which even Atlanta would make sense if they could somehow dump Matt Ryan, but that's probably not possible. But all three of those teams would have been suitors for Deshaun Watson.
But I think another way you could tackle like the NFC too is look at it from a conference winning perspective. Like the Saints are plus 2,500, the Panthers are plus 3,000. I mean, I don't know. I don't even want to make cases for these teams. The Saints, they're just in cap hell until I know what they're going to do.
Carolina's got the draft picks though. They have the draft capital.
Yeah, but I mean, I want to like Carolina. Like I do. They have the draft capital. You're right. Their coach was just so bad on offense last year. So maybe they finally commit to opening it up, but like,
I wonder if Sean Payton stayed, would that sway Watson more, knowing that Payton is still in New Orleans?
I think that would have helped. I think that definitely would have helped. But I mean, like they have that guy there in Dennis Allen, who he's been there for a few years, and he's I think the system will stay the same. So, look, the Panthers are intriguing. I mean, the Carolina Panthers are intriguing, but I just like Matt Rule just seems like the second coming of Pete Carroll right now to me, and it's kind of played out like that on the field. So, would bringing Deshaun Watson in like fix the problems and kind of open it up a bit? Yeah, I could. I think that's probably where I would lean at like plus 3,000. If I was going to take a shot with a team in the NFC right now, just because you have that Deshaun Watson boost. But if Deshaun Watson doesn't go there, that team is going to be a dumpster fire. So you're really basically just banking on like Deshaun Watson going there. So I don't even think you're getting good enough odds to do that.
And we'll wrap up on this. And this definitely confirms that. I think this definitely confirms Watson is going to the NFC. No question about it. Adam Schefter, moments ago, Houston has declined Indianapolis's attempt to speak with Deshaun Watson. Houston comfortable trading Watson, just not in the AFC South.
Okay.
So that, I don't know. I'm always like on the fence about that. I get it. You don't want to see the guy beat up on you in your own division, but if you get a ton of picks for him, I mean, at the end of the day, why does it matter that much? I get it. I do, because that would be hard to swallow.
Yeah, I mean,
hard to face.
I kind of agree with you. Like, it's probably a little bit too much.
It's such a thing in sports. Yeah. I'll give you an example. It just happened in the NBA. James Harden to Philly. And look what the Nets just did to him. The Nets just kicked his butt on national TV the other day.
I know. It's like people think about the downside too much. Oh, this guy's going to beat us for the next 10 years. Well, what if he sucks? And then you can say, look, fan base, look what we did. We traded away this garbage to our division rival, and we got all these picks for them. We're going to be clowning them for the next decade. I agree. And in football, it's only 2 games a year. Like, you're still going to play Deshaun Watson at some point. So
yes. Plus, Houston is going to be bad. Like, they're going to be bad. Like, they're not like
exactly. Houston's like 2 years away from caring, anyways.
Yes, right. They're in such a rebuild. Like, if the Colts gave you the best offer, I would take it. It's not like it's not like you're trying to keep him and convince him to stay. Like, you are definitely moving off him.
And I mean, the other facet of this, like, is Deshaun Watson someone like teams should really be going after? Like, there's a character component. So maybe you're like, again, I don't know. it's too much is made of it. You're right.
Yep.
The teams, as per usual, just like not really maximizing their value. But
again, I get it if you're a team that's like you want to keep him and you think you're like a year away from contending. You are not contending for a while. So just get the package and go. We have to go too. So that's going to do it. Hopefully, has the Players Championship wrapped yet? Has that concluded?
They're on the 17th hole.
Of course they
Cam
are.
Smith has like a 4-foot birdie putt, and if he makes it, it's probably over. So it looks like Cam Smith. I'll have my Valspar preview out tomorrow. Good. Follow me at the Fantasy Grind. You can check out DK Nation, DKNation.com, all that good stuff. Download the DK Live app. Yeah, you'll find my article there, or just follow me on Twitter. I'll have it out likely actually late tonight, probably, or early tomorrow morning. So excellent. All the Valspar stuff, it'll be out soon.
And the golf guys are here on Wednesday. They will get you set. I think they'll be here. Jeff,
Reed and I will be here for sure.
Reed. Oh, I see. So the host is unsure of being here. Interesting how that goes. Okay. Well, thanks to Eamon and Tom. For Jeff Ulrich, Brendan Glasheen, thanks for tuning in. That was a fun show with NFL free agency. So be sure to check out the DK Sportsbook for all the latest on odds in the NFL, everything else. And again, we're back tomorrow. Sweats at 11. This show's at 5. We'll see you then.